So from your perspective, what is like the moment we decided to get into science and graphics?
On our camping trip, when we were doing motocross, and we decided that we wanted to do motocross graphics and travel to the different events.
And I'm out of curiosity, like I'm wondering, because I know like how I remember it, but do you remember like literally where we were?
Yeah, we were at our campsite in Hollister Hills.
Because like what stands out in my mind, because I was so excited, was like literally driving out of the park. Like we were leaving the park when we like literally at that point had a pen and paper. You were in the passenger seat, and I was like, all right, let's take action. Like, what are like the notes? And like we were literally writing notes. We were still in the park, and you were writing notes as we were leaving the park. So it's just interesting to like know exactly what you remember and what I remember from it. And I just remember at the time I was so excited that I was like, oh my God, she's like taking part in this. She's taking notes. Like, I think I might have something here.
Yeah.
So at that time, what were your thoughts? Like, were you 100% committed, or were you still like, let me feel this out?
No, I remember being 100% committed. Obviously, like, I wasn't excited to go back to work and like have to break the news to my boss and basically transition out of the job. But I remember I was starting to think about, okay, I'm going to give them, I think I gave them 1 to 2 months. And we had already hired someone that I thought could replace me. And then I also had kind of figured out, okay, maybe that I can start transitioning and working at Quality part-time, which I seem to remember we did. Like, I think we got the sign equipment in the shop, and I came part-time because I remember you calling me about that whole spring issue, and I was still working at Shopatron.
Yeah, I remember that like yesterday, losing the spring from the blade and like literally sweeping the entire shop, pulling everything out, because we had plans with Dylan to make a bunch of shirts, and I wanted to uphold what I said we were going to do. He was coming from Bakersfield, and I was worried that we weren't going to have the one tiny little spring, and we ended up finding it, didn't we? But it was destroyed by the time we found it.
Yeah, and we took it to a wash shop and they straightened out the spring.
Oh my God. I would have never remembered that. So we were literally able to make shirts when he came. But so going back to the pulling out of Hollister Hills, you taking notes, you're saying that you were 100% committed at the time. How much of what you were thinking about was the fact that we weren't even married yet? That you were going to literally allow me to derail your entire plan this far into life? Like, were you thinking at all, like, wait a minute, like, this is a big change, a big commitment, and we're not even married? Or was that even not even on your mind?
Thinking, I mean, obviously that crossed my mind. It was good timing because I was already kind of like thinking about my next move from the job that I was at, whether I even wanted to stay with them or I wanted to go to a different company. So like one of the reasons that we did butt heads a lot when I first started, I think, was because I always had in the back of my mind, well, if this doesn't work out, I can just go get a job somewhere else. So it wasn't like this all or nothing thing. Like if I lost this job, I would never be able to find something again. Like it's not like I would have 0 options if it didn't work out.
I still think that's true. You can go anywhere and find a job. So what about breaking it to your parents? Like, was that on your mind?
I can't even remember breaking it to my parents. I mean, I was completely financially independent from them. So
you weren't worried about like their judgment as far as you quitting your career job that you prepared your whole life for to work with your boyfriend?
I honestly can't remember how that conversation went down, but I don't remember them being like particularly concerned or worried about it, which is surprising.
So I wonder if that was before or after we went to your house in San Diego to try to get your passport.
Oh, this is after.
The passport was after? Or the
No,
signs and graphics was after?
The signs and graphics was
really?
After. Yeah, you wanting to take me to Mexico was like really early on in our relationship.
I still remember going on that trip and wishing you were there.
Yeah, no, that was at the very beginning.
So what are your memories from that altercation with your parents? Where we went to your house, we tried to get your passport because we wanted to go to Mexico with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
I took a little offense to it because they didn't trust you going with my mom.
Yeah, so you wanted to take me to Mexico on a family trip because your mom had a house there. And we actually needed my birth certificate in order for me to get a passport.
Oh, yeah.
And so we went down to San Diego to visit, and I was hoping I could get my birth certificate there. And my mom refused to give me my birth certificate because she didn't want me going with you to Mexico. And you said, well, my mom owns a house there. It's a really safe part of Mexico. And then my mom was like, well, does she own the land there? And then she
said that? I would have never remembered that. So, yeah, I want to hear exactly like your perspective all these years later on me in that conversation with them. Like, were you mad at me?
No, I don't think I was mad at
you.
you.
Because I remember you started crying.
Oh.
But I don't know exactly why. I didn't know why at the time. Like, if you were mad at me, if you were upset with your parents for not giving the birth certificate, or if you were just disappointed that the whole thing happened because it was the first time I met them in person and we got into a falling out fight.
I mean, it wasn't the first time you ever met them.
We went there for Easter before that?
They had come up for like dinner and stuff.
Okay, for your actual graduation.
Yeah, and I think we had like gone out to dinner with them a couple times before that, so it wasn't like the first time you ever met them. I was probably just disappointed that it wasn't going to work out and I wasn't going to be able to go on the trip. I mean, my parents have always been like that, so that wasn't a surprise. My parents have gotten in fights with my friends before for similar things, me not being able to go places. So
do you remember how you felt about me?
No, I can't really remember. Like, I don't think I was mad at you. I don't think we like got in a fight on the way home or anything like that.
I don't recall getting in a fight, but I remember wondering, like, are you mad at me? What did I say to your parents that even escalated it so much? Or did I keep my cool?
I can't remember, honestly. I just remember that they didn't give it to me. And then I had to go, like, file with the state to, like, get a new birth certificate.
So they never ended up giving it to you. We ended up saying it's lost and getting your own. Because that was a big part of it. You were already 18. Yeah. I was like, you don't trust me with my own birth certificate.
And then our house got robbed and that one got stolen. So I still don't think I have a birth certificate or a passport.
So we are leaving Hollister Hills. We decide we're going to buy sign equipment. You're not really that concerned about quitting your career job to go to work with your boyfriend. We make a plan for you to start coming over at Quality part-time, which I believe was just leaving earlier and coming in the afternoons, right? Mm-hmm. And I would make a joke all the time about you working for some other dude.
Yeah. So I think what I did was I was salary at that job, and so I said, well, I'm gonna transition, I'll train this new person, but I do need to be at the shop for X amount of time. So, you know, my salary equivalent to hourly is X amount. Just moving to hourly, I'll be part-time while we transition over. And then at night, I was learning how to do graphic design. So I would be up till like midnight, 2 a.m, learning how to do graphic design. And then one full day, or maybe like a 3-day block, I took off to come learn how to do the sign equipment when we got the sign equipment delivered, and we did that whole training with them.
And by this time, you're already living with me full time, obviously. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, not obviously. I can't really remember exactly the timeline of everything.
No, I was living with you full time at that point because I had already graduated, so I wasn't at that other house.
So are you glad that we got into, like, or not glad, but like, do you think that signs specifically was a good decision as far as all the things we could have added to Quality, looking back?
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason we got into signs was because it was going to be a good matching of your skill sets in mine, because you already had installation skills. Like, you had already obviously mastered window tinting, and then you had gotten your hands on PPF and vinyl to some extent. Like, we did that matte white wrap when vinyl was kind of newer on your truck. That must have been back in like 2011. And then you had done some paint protection, and then I don't know if you remember, but like even when you bought the business, there was like that roll of yellow and like orange vinyl, and he had a plotter. So like we had gotten into it. to a really small extent. And then we knew that we were going to need to have the computer skills. One of us was going to need to know how to do graphic design and run the equipment. So that was going to be my part in it. And I still think that that was a good decision to this day, because right now it's about half of our revenue at our brick and mortar.
I got that big wrap from Linson Signs and wrapped the corrugated metal like on the
doors.
No, on the doors too. Oh my god, I forgot about that.
And on the wall.
On the corrugated metal on the loft.
Oh yeah.
And so I rolled it in there. So yeah, I forgot that I had that much vinyl experience before we got into it. I remember wrapping the truck in matte white, but yeah, wrapping the doors, the roll-up doors, and the corrugated metal.
Yeah,
I
it was like,
forgot about that, and I did some wall wraps like at the shop.
It was like the matching of our skills, but then also our need at the business for everything that we had to purchase from other sign shops. So it's like we wanted decals for your truck, we wanted wall wraps for the shop, we wanted to order custom apparel, we wanted graphics for our dirt bikes. And so every time we went to go buy those, we were obviously paying retail price. Plus, everyone in our town sucked as far as like customer service. They were difficult to work with. They made everything for a small business like us super complicated and hard to actually get our order done.
Well, what's funny is at the time I thought, gosh, nobody wants to take a small project.
Mm-hmm.
And so my idea was to be the shop that takes all the small projects. And then now we hate small projects. So now we've become wiser and learned why they're like that and why they did that.
Yeah, but the small
But
projects. But
now that we have more resources, we still do take small projects, but we just can see that perspective because they never were able to assemble a team to have the resources to do a small project.
Yeah. And I was also trying to like think back if there was anything that, we could have done or like we wish we had done differently when adding signs. Like we obviously our first idea with adding signs was that we were going to have the sign equipment in a trailer and we were going to travel with it, because we saw when we would go to all these motocross events that people would be like pressing shirts, pressing jerseys on the spot. And we're like, oh, we could make decals, we could make jerseys, we could do everything on the spot. And then as soon as we actually got the equipment, we're like, that vision is dead. That's not going to be a possibility. But more so just because we're like, when would we have time to go? Yeah,
like,
we'd
even
have to
if we
close
wanted
the shop
to do
down.
it, we wouldn't even have time. And then to have I think like logistically having the equipment in a trailer, then getting home on Sunday evening and like working out of the trailer, just like logistically it didn't make the most sense. But I mean, I'm glad we didn't do that now.
Power.
We just weren't. I just wasn't thinking as big at the time, as far as like what we do now and working for the city and doing commercial full wraps on a regular basis and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean the print equipment was a huge investment, and there was a really big learning curve, because even though you had some experience, I obviously had computer knowledge. At the end of the day, we didn't have anyone mentoring us on how to add this to our business, from how to do customer projects. There's so many different types of signs. There's so many different materials. I don't know if you remember, I would literally like call sign shops in different states that weren't competitors and be like, we're making this sign, like what type of material should we use? And then like we literally ate it so hard when we first added sign equipments.
Oh my god, just thinking about all the complexities of like the computer side of it, even to this day, like I could never do it by myself. That's what attracted me to window tinting so much. It's like you just need a roll and a knife, no computer. And it's even still to this day, like not wanting to use the plotter because it involves a computer.
But yeah, I mean, looking back, I can't really think of anything that we could have done differently, because the main thing is just we know how to do it now and we didn't then. And there was no one to teach us how to do it.
Well, like even social media was new, so like mentors and coaches, like this was in 2012.
The equipment.
Like Instagram was like a completely different platform at the time. It was people like hashtagging what jeans they wear and stuff.
Yeah, and even like
there wasn't a ton of educational content.
Yeah, so like I mean, we were adding the equipment now that generates about $1 million in revenue, but we only got 3 days of training to learn how to run that equipment. And the training was really focused on how to operate the actual pieces of equipment. It wasn't on how do you quote projects, what materials to order, all of the different types of signs we could make, how we like color match, the whole like estimation to completion process.
And one of the biggest challenges I remember is like the ability to take apart cars, because I'm so horrible at that. I don't know if you remember, but we had a BMW wrap, and we had somebody take apart the whole front bumper for us, just to find out that it was too complex of a bumper for me to wrap.
No,
And then we had, do you remember?
No.
I remember she wanted indigo blue. And we had Izzy take off from the body shop, take off the front bumper for us. We took it all off, and I tried wrapping it once. I was like, there's no way I know how to do this. And then he put it all back together, and we had to tell the customer we couldn't do it.
I remember in that that lady wanted a really specific blue. So I remember that we were printing color after color to even get the color she wanted. Yeah, no, there was so many projects in the beginning that we just spent money to do. We printed probably $1,000 worth of A-frame signs for rugged radios, and then I was crying because I was like, I don't even think this is the right blue. And then you're like, well, let's just reprint all of them with the right blue, and then he can pick which ones he wants.
Oh my gosh. And then not knowing that, like, not letting it outgas long enough makes the vinyl super soupy.
Well, we knew that, but there was some situations where, because we sucked so much, we had to laminate it. Like there was the Christmas parade where you were so mad that I didn't have the wrap done, and so I threw something together to wrap your truck, and we printed it, and you're like, well, it's just for one day, let's just laminate it and not let it outgas. And then it was just like you couldn't even work with it because it was so soupy. And then we ended up having that guy spray paint your truck.
Yeah.
Instead.
So we're like, the thing is so we're learning new equipment, still relatively new to business. So having to make all those challenging business decisions on like, should we tell the customer, should we let it go? And still in the mindset of trying to protect the reputation, because it had only been a few years since I bought the business.
And like it was literally everything. Like,
so from your perspective, like what was the biggest challenge?
Look, you're leaving thousands of dollars on the table every single month. Why? Because you're still running your business the hard way, struggling to scale, burning through team members, and watching money slip through your fingers. I see it every day. Business owners that are stuck in the grind, doing all the work themselves because they don't have the right process and procedures in place. Or even worse, getting undercut by lowballers because they're not dominating their market. Proven strategies, real systems, and you need a community of winners who are actually doing this.
You guys, I've built a multi-million-dollar auto restyling company, and I've helped hundreds of others scale their business by systematizing their operations and turning their skills into highly profitable businesses. All right, now I'm giving you my exact blueprint inside of my coaching program. This is where I drop real strategies, step-by-step business moves, and proven sales tactics to help you close more jobs, raise your prices, and build a brand that prints money. Plus, you'll be surrounded by other driven business owners pushing for the same success, learning from their wins and mistakes so you don't have to waste your time figuring it all out by yourself. Are you done struggling, ready to grow, and want the real blueprint to working smarter and not harder? If so, hit the link below and get signed up for my coaching program right now. Learn the game, stop stressing, and start making money. Let's go!
And then working together on top of that. So like working together, making business decisions, burning money.
The biggest challenge, like everything was a challenge. We didn't know how to do anything. I mean, we didn't know how to price the projects. We didn't know how to set client expectations.
So if we're giving advice to our kids,
yeah,
what advice would you give looking back if they were in the exact same situation? Because so many times people would say, you guys are doing everything right. You just got to keep going. And it was like the last thing we wanted to hear.
I mean, it would have been cheaper if we had just shut the business down for a week and asked to go work at another sign shop and just avoided 80% of the
At that
mistakes
time, I
that
would have
we
been
made.
scared to damage the reputation. Or it's like, what are we going to put a sign on the door that we're on vacation?
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe
And we
I
need,
should've just
and
gone
not
or
only
something.
like, yeah, it would have been cheaper in the big picture, but it would have been more upfront, because then like we're pausing revenue for a week, which at that time we needed like every dollar.
Yeah.
So it's like, how are we going to pay rent? It's like we were burning through money, but not all at once.
And one of the reasons I can't really think of anything that I would change is because when we added signs, you know how I am, I think about all of the negative things. And so I did not think it was going to be easy. Like, I already knew it was going to be hard because I didn't even know how anything worked. Like, I just had no idea.
So what advice would you give our kids in the exact same situation circa 2012? They're going through it with their business. They're working with a significant other. They don't want to just hear you're doing everything right. This is just part of it. Like, more tactical, specific advice. Like, I think I would say find a mentor that is already good at that.
Yeah.
Like, it's worth the money. We don't have the money. Like, hypothetically, like, we don't have the money. Like, I don't think we thought we had the money.
Yeah. And like you said, things are different now. Because, like, even then, there wasn't even that many videos on YouTube. Like, I remember...
Oh my God, YouTube was only, like, a few years old at that point.
Yeah, I remember, like, being at the shop at, like, 11 p.m. and watching a YouTube video in Spanish because it was my only option on how to figure something out. And I was, like, translating it word by word.
So this is why people tell us, like, you're doing everything right. Just keep going. Don't give up. This is just part of it.
Maybe we should, because we were...
And then the tension's so high because we're burning through money that obviously it makes it even harder not to fight and get our emotions involved.
Yeah. It was basically like, I don't know if you remember, but the signs we did have as its own business. Mm-hmm. So it's like step one was
my God, yeah, we at first started under a whole new company name.
Right. And so it was like...
San Luis Signs?
Yeah, San Luis Sign Company. The San Luis Sign Company.
I love that name.
So, like, best and voted number one in Stone County is what we put on the sign. It's like no one even knew us. No, but, like, we decided that I was going to quit my job and that we we're going to add the signs to the business. But, like, it was the sign part, because it was its own thing, it was kind of like our very first business venture. And the revenue from quality, which was separate, was, like, fueling everything there.
Just as it always has.
Yeah.
And then I remember, oh my God, I just remembered this right now, but going to Shopatron to do those clouds. Remember we got a big project from Shopatron?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I can't believe I just remembered that. I was so proud to be there doing that. But like, looking back at that time when we did the clouds, like that's when we started to like figure it out a little bit. But like at that time, like I felt like we'd been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, and like
it's always crazy looking back and like remembering how I felt at that time. And like even at that time, it felt like we'd been together forever already, and it had only been like a few years.
And I mean, there were so many like disheartening things. Like I remember we did like a 200 shirt order for Rugged. That was like 3 hits. And then it's like took us literally days.
That speckled logo?
Yeah, days and nights to finish this order. And then like I was like, and then I did the calculation, like we literally made no money on this job. We paid money to do these shirts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe we could have...
Make sure you know your numbers is maybe advice you can give one of our kids.
But like we also didn't know what our labor time was going to be. You know, it's like, oh, well, if we calculate it based on how long the heat press actually takes to press these prints, it should only take us a minute to press each shirt. Well, we sucked so much, it took us like 15 minutes to do each shirt. So it was just like way underestimating everything. But at the same time, like we did need those jobs to learn.
And I think I said that a few times, like we're just using these jobs to learn. So this is our school. Like my mom has always said, like a good education costs money no matter what. You're either going to pay for it in school or pay for it on the job. So looking back, would you make the same decision? I mean, obviously it's tiring thinking about having to make that same decision. Mainly so stressful because we didn't have that many resources. But if we had more money, like let's just say one of our parents was willing to loan us more money, then we wouldn't have been as stressed, but we probably would have burnt through more money just knowing we could have.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's like a good solution to, like looking back, like if my mom could have said,
Remember she was helping me buy window film for a while? I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah. I'm
But
just thinking like
that also, at that time, that was, I hope everyone remembers that was literally the heart of the recession.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2011, 2012. The recession didn't really hit around here until 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
So we're like,
I mean, there was like even though we did spend money doing a lot of our first jobs, like for the first year, I would say we were lucky and fortunate the fact that like the first door you knocked on, you got us a big account. Like you went to Rugged Radios and we're like, hey, do you have a sign person? And we did their fleet graphics, we did their shirts, we did decals, stickers for them. Like that was a big account.
I was like, this is awesome. You just walk in and get jobs. No, but the reason why was because he wasn't happy with his current vendor. He used Frank.
Yeah.
And like he's like, oh yeah, you're opening a sign job? Yeah, I'm all in. And that was part of the idea, was that like anyone that uses Frank, which was most people, are going to be excited to switch.
Yeah, looking back, I kind of think for me, I just feel like my focus and the amount of research I did, like I did kind of want to just like dive right in and do the projects, but I could have done more research on the front end. Like I was spending time figuring out how to do all the graphic design, but I could have gotten more knowledgeable on the industry with the information that was available to us. Like you researched the equipment and everything and you like had an idea of how like vinyl worked and like the different substrates, but I was literally had no idea how like the plotter would even cut out a printed design.
Oh my gosh, all the times that like a design like went into a design, like when you would design it and like overlays and whatnot, and then it shows up.
Like I even remember my focus wasn't 100% there when we had the person come for training, and that's because we were still trying to handle quality customers and do other things. And it's like, I think if I had been 100% focused, like this needs 100% of my dedication right now, we could have been more successful right off the bat. But like I remember,
That's how I feel about the Tinstitute right now.
I remember like when the guy was there, like we were paying all this money for the equipment, I was kind of like, okay, well I gotta go do this. Can you just like hold on?
This is awesome. This is literally how I feel, and it's the exact same thing. This is how I feel about the Tinstitute and quality still. So we're giving ourselves advice.
The print equipment's actually cheaper now than when we bought it back in 2012.
I know, it's crazy that it was a good decision then, and it would be an even better decision for someone to add signs now.
It would be
and I think that it like panned out as far as I really was keen on wanting to add a necessity. And it's like, that's still true.
Yeah.
And being able to sell it is still easier than selling a window film project, whether it's residential window film, commercial window film, or auto film. Like, it's very hard to persuade someone into window film. They either like it or they have a bad connotation. Everyone has a positive connotation when it comes to having their logo on something, whether it's a wall wrap or an exterior sign or shirts or whatever. It's like everyone has attachment to their logo and wants to get their logo made. There's no friction there. It's like, yeah, I want that. It's just a matter of who am I going to go with.
Yeah, every business needs signs.
Is
and
it-
then like anytime you can add a service to your business that benefits your existing operation is a good idea. Like
We're vertically integrated because we make
Yeah.
signs for our own business. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like if we were to get our vehicle wrap and pay retail price, that's $5,000. Okay, that's $5,000 off of our initial investment, just right there. Let alone having the equipment for 10 years. You know, every time we do shirts, every time we do stickers for our showroom, like all of that benefits us. I mean, everything at our shop.
So we did a
wall
lot of
wraps.
things right, in the sense that adding signs was a good decision. Sounds like you would do that again.
Yeah.
Choosing Muto, we still use them today.
Mm-hmm.
We still use Fellers to this day. Is it as profitable as you thought it was going to be? Or do you remember if it's as profitable as I thought it was going to be? I think so.
Yeah.
I know that, like, for me, a lot of times if I'm networking, like, early on, I started just saying I own a sign company over a window tinting company because I thought there was more prestige in saying that I owned a sign company rather than a window tinting company.
Yeah. Now you say you own an internet company.
Information
company. But yeah, I mean, as
What do
far
you say when you're talking to people? Like if somebody says, "What do you do?" What do you say?
Honestly,
This is a great question. What I wouldn't know this.
it's funny because I like cared.
What do you do?
I cared so much about people knowing I was one of the owners. Like, I just feel like I was like the redheaded stepchild at the business. Like everyone would be looking over me, wanting to talk to you. And then when I was planted out at the retail store, everyone was like, "Oh, Dylan owns it, Austin owns it." And so it's like everywhere I went, I felt like I was doing a lot of the work, and I was actually the owner, but no one would treat me like the owner. And then now I don't really want anyone to know I'm the owner.
Because you don't want to have to deal with those customer issues.
Well, it's like anytime a customer
Or you're just tired of dealing with those
anytime a customer's looking for the owner, it's like sometimes they genuinely do want to say, "Oh, I really love your business, great," but it's like, put that online, that is more beneficial for us than telling me in person. But generally speaking, when a customer wants to talk to the owner, it's because they have a complaint, they want a discount, or they want a bend in the policies that we have. So it's just a disadvantage to me. And then if they do speak with me and they don't get what they want, then they have a bad taste for the business. Where if they're just getting blocked by a layer of management, then it's like, "Oh, I'm not the one that writes the checks. This is just our policy. Like, this is how it is." But if they actually if they actually get to the owner and then they feel like they didn't get what they wanted, then they take it really personal, and they don't like our business anymore.
So when you're networking right now, meaning you just meet someone new, and they ask like, "Oh, what do you do?" What do you say?
I own a business.
And then they say, "Oh, what type of business?" I mean, I feel like I get this like.
I don't network. Who am I talking to?
No, just like meeting someone new.
Yeah, I own a business.
Like at the park. It doesn't come up. They just think you're a hot stay-at-home wife.
I'll be like, honestly, I can't even think of the last time I had this conversation with someone, but I'll be like, "I own a business," and then...
But the next question they're going to say is, "What kind of business?"
Yeah,
so you
I think
purposely tee yourself up.
I think I'll say a sign business or I'll say an internet company. I don't know.
When did we start to see brighter days?
From the sign specifically?
Yeah, like in that era. Like losing the contract with Rugged, he was disappointed that the wrap was sideways on his truck.
I think we always said like it took us basically a full year of eating it until we became profitable with the signs.
So is there a specific project that you remember where you're like, "Oh man, we profited on that project"? Because I was talking about the Shopatron, and I kind of remember being successful on that project. I definitely remember the Robert May one where I came back really upset.
Yeah.
But like I can't remember a pivotal project specifically, and I'm just not good at this as far as remembering like, "Man, we made money on this. That was a home run."
Yeah, I mean, I remember dark days with the sign stuff, but generally speaking, looking back, I think of that whole decision and that whole addition to the business as a positive. And we still do it to this day. I mean, yeah, we've cut out some specific parts of it and, change some things. But in general, like that was a really good decision. And I do remember about a year after we were like, okay, now we're actually making money. But I can't think of a specific
project that we're like, "Damn, that was a home run. I can't believe we got that project." Or like we were stoked on the Rugged account because it gave us a lot of opportunities to learn.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a specific job where we're like, "Damn, I can't believe we just got that job." I mean, Shopatron was kind of that because it was like a corporate job.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like it was a pity job though, just because it was your old employer. So I didn't feel like we like got it 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I remember our big projects like as a sign shop when I was learning how to do layouts for full vehicle wraps. I remember I kept saying like, "I've only done a couple of these," because you're like, why isn't this lining up? Why isn't this perfect? Why isn't this to size? Why are our colors off on different panels? And I was like, remember, like we're not getting these super often. So I'm doing them like maybe every 3 to 6 months, and I'm only doing them here and there. Every vehicle is different. Like I was having a lot of trouble figuring out how to like dial in full vehicle wraps. And I think a turning point for being successful at some of those bigger projects was when we moved to LOVR and we had Amanda and that department was actually growing, and I wasn't doing all of it by myself. I don't know if you remember the Idler's box truck. I printed the entire thing, and it was like at 14 DPI, and it was super pixelated, and I was like crying at the shop.
And all the grays. Like we have problem with grays on that print. So yeah, that was definitely one of the bigger accounts that we got.
Yeah, we
Back
got
then.
the Idler's, all the Idler's box truck wraps, which were like $5,000 each, and then we got all of the Idler's electric signs, which was like maybe $30,000 or something like that. So we started getting big projects once we moved to LOVR, and we stopped the retail store in 2015, and so that added stress going away was a huge benefit. But then at that time we started having a lot of stresses with the team.
So talking about the retail store is a whole nother thing that we're going to get into next time. So stay tuned if you guys want to see more about our journey from how we got from point A to point B. And if you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments and we'll see you on the next one.